So Mother Nature seems more often than not to strike without any warning. Whether it's tsunamis, wildfires, earthquakes, or even tornadoes, it can be hard to tell how deadly they will be until they hit. We've already covered the biggest tsunamis of all time, so in this video, we're going to be looking at the biggest and most deadly tornadoes on Earth. Every year, there are hundreds of tornadoes that make landfall all over the world, causing havoc and unimaginable damage to the towns and cities that they're in. What's scary about tornadoes is that they can really vary in their strength, ranging anywhere from an EF0, which has winds between 40 and 72 miles per hour, all the way up to an EF5, which has winds between 261 and 318 miles per hour. At these speeds, almost nothing will protect you. Strong-framed houses will be lifted off their foundation and carried through the air. Automobiles will basically become missiles and get thrown around like a baseball. Steel-reinforced concrete structures will be badly damaged or destroyed, and skyscrapers could even be toppled. Yeah, it's that serious. With global warming only worsening the extreme weather we get, I wouldn't be surprised to see even more powerful tornadoes start to become common. Luckily, if you live in a mountainous area, then you don't have much to worry about, as tornadoes really only ever make landfall in flat fields where there isn't much blocking their path. So, what is the biggest tornado the world has ever seen? In terms of actual size, the largest ever recorded is the El Reno tornado that struck rural Oklahoma in 2013. This tornado was the largest by far, spanning a whopping 2.6 miles in width. For some comparison, this is basically equal to the entire north to south length of Central Park in New York. Pretty crazy. The tornado was ranked an EF5 for its extremely high wind speed that was clocked in at 296 miles per hour, and in total traveled for just over 16 miles before coming to a halt. In the end, there were 18 people who lost their lives from this storm, including 4 storm chasers. Luckily, due to it occurring in a very rural area, there wasn't much notable damage. To this day, this is still the largest tornado in terms of total size. However, this tornado still doesn't have the highest wind speeds ever recorded, although it did come close. The highest wind speeds ever recorded from a tornado occurred in 1999 from a Category EF5 storm. While the exact number isn't exactly clear, winds were recorded at anywhere between 300 and 320 miles per hour. At these speeds, there would be basically nothing you could do to protect yourself. To this day, this is still the highest ever recorded wind speed anywhere on Earth. In terms of total destruction, there are 2 tornadoes that take the cake for being both the most destructive and the most costly. Coming in at first place is the 1896 St. Louis tornado, which caused over $4.45 billion in damage when adjusted to match inflation. It all started on May 27th. There was some early predictions that a tornado may hit or that it may just be thunderstorms, causing many to disregard the warning and go about their day. By the time afternoon came, the sky began to darken, and many fled to their homes knowing that a storm was coming. By 5 p.m., the temperature had dropped rapidly, and the sky turned a greenish-black color. The first tornado touched down in St. Louis, Missouri, one of the largest cities in the country at the time. At least 137 people died as the tornado ripped through the core of the city, destroying homes, schools, saloons, factories, churches, and more. When the tornado crossed the Mississippi River and struck Eads Bridge, a wooden plank was found driven through a half-inch thick iron plate. As the tornado continued, it grew smaller but much more intense. Homes and buildings that were along the river were completely swept away. Here, an additional 118 people were killed, making the official death toll 255. But some argue that it was even higher than 400 deaths with more than 1,000 injured. What's even crazier is that the second most destructive tornado also occurred in Missouri, but over 100 years later. The 2011 Joplin tornado had a total cost of over $2.8 billion in damage. When this storm first touched down, it was a rather small EF0. But as it moved along, it gained intensity until it reached an EF5 ranking. Due to this sudden increase in intensity, a tornado siren rang out only 20 minutes before it hit a major city where it destroyed homes, vehicles, and leveled entire neighborhoods. This tornado was so strong that it even flattened well-built commercial and medical buildings. 300-pound concrete blocks were thrown as far as 60 yards away, and a 9-story building was even so damaged it had to be demolished. Massive superstores like Walmart, Home Depot, and even a Pepsi distribution plant were all completely flattened. In total, there was so much destruction in the area that it looked like a war zone. Many people lost their homes, businesses, and all of their belongings because of this unimaginable storm. Now, even though all of the tornadoes I just showed you were extremely deadly, they still don't even come close to the 2 deadliest tornadoes of all time. Due to the limited information at the time and the area being extremely rural, it's hard to give you a lot of detail about what is considered the deadliest tornado of all time. But I'll try my best. So, the deadliest tornado in recorded history occurred in Bangladesh in 1989. The storm started around 6:30 p.m. on April 26th. The tornado was first spotted southwest of where the majority of the fatalities occurred. As it moved along, it gained power and grew to be as much as 1 mile in length and traveled for over 50 miles in distance. Every single home in the area was leveled, as most of the destruction occurred within the slums of Bangladesh. Over 80,000 people were left homeless, and an additional 1,300 people were killed. The second deadliest tornado in recorded history is a storm that actually occurred in the United States. The Tri-State Tornado of 1925 is the deadliest to ever hit America. Due to unusual circumstances, the tornado was able to travel anywhere between 151 to 231 miles, causing massive destruction and deaths throughout 3 different states. The storm first started in Missouri, where it was relatively small at first before it started to gain power. Here, many homes and buildings were destroyed, including many schools, causing innocent children to be hurt. In total, at least 11 people died in Missouri during the storm, and things only got worse from here. As the storm moved into Illinois, it first struck the town of Gorham, causing so much destruction the entire town was essentially obliterated, and more than half of its population was injured or killed. As the storm ripped through the state, causing more damage and deaths, large fires were accidentally ignited, burning many of the trapped survivors alive. In one town alone, 234 people were killed, which to this day is the most tornado-related deaths in a single U.S. city. As the storm moved into a nearby town, it devastated a school where 33 people were killed, making it the deadliest tornado-related accident at a school in U.S. history. Many attempted to take shelter as the tornado continued on its destructive path, leveling anything that got in its way. Heavy railroad axles were ripped from the ground. Wood was speared into water towers. Mining towns were flattened, and some entire cities were destroyed. But it doesn't stop there. Not long after, the tornado crossed into Indiana, causing damage similar to the other states. It tore through cities for another 10 miles heading northeast before finally dissipating. In total, at least 695 people lost their lives due to this freak storm, and another 2,000 or more were seriously injured. The majority of the damage and deaths took place in Illinois, and in the end, 13 counties and 19 cities were basically completely flattened, 4 of which never managed to recover. The storm lasted for 3.5 hours, and to this day, it is the deadliest to ever hit the United States. The craziest thing about tornadoes is that there often isn't much you can do to prepare for them. Thanks to modern technology, we tend to have some warning allowing you to seek shelter, but as we learned today, sometimes the storm is just so powerful that even seeking shelter may not be enough. Let's just hope that none of us ever have to experience something like this in our lifetime.